Aloha, and welcome to another episode of the Groundswell Origins podcast, where I connect you to outstanding humans and sustainable ideas. I'm your host, Scott Martin. Today, we have my good friend and CFO, Robert Lee. Robert Lee is a fractional CMO to multiple companies. He's got a long historic background in working in the space in large companies and consulting firms. And we talk about something that I think is probably in the forefront of most people's minds right now, which is cash flow, the looming or the existing recession, or just the softening of people's businesses and how they can actually address that. And we do a little bit of a coverage on how to do a financial audit on your marketing, and he describes in great detail some of his strategies, and there's some useful tips here. I mean, for cash flow and for managing your business, nobody better than him, and I'm just so excited to have him on the show. We covered enough ground that I know I'm going to do another episode with him, and I think this is a really important discussion about understanding your costs, understanding how to manage your money, cash flowing, and the integration of the CFO and your money and marketing all into one. So without further ado, let's paddle in. We have today the one and only Robert Lee. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Scott, man. Thanks very much for having me.
I am so stoked we finally decided to do this. To give you guys some context, Robert's been coaching me, and I've seen him coaching other executives in their business around finance. We met through Tony Robbins at a Tony Robbins event, end up having this really fortuitous opportunity to sit on a flight together. We sat together and I got to know his genius. And today I'm really excited to have this episode's rather talking about money and ROI and the importance of CFO. And so maybe give us a little background of what you've been up to and what your history and so forth.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks again for having me on the episode today. So, who's Rob Lee? Who am I? I'm one of those guys who early on decided I really wanted to go into accounting. Who's that guy? Does that really happen?
Did you actually grow up liking numbers? Has that always been a thing?
I think I actually really liked cash and money. From the time when I had 11 paper routes and hired my buddies to work with me so that I could cover the entire neighborhood to, through high school running my first real proper business that frankly made me a whole lot more money than my later jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to work with a whole bunch of accountants and people, and I thought, man, this is knowing this business stuff seems to have really provided an epic life for these partners in accounting firms that I met and was moving and was interacting with. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an accountant. I didn't even know what the word meant. But lo and behold, I went off to business school, found myself as a co-op student, went and became a CPA, did all the extra business school MBA stuff, and have been really blessed to spend the last 25 years working in all kinds of different industries and businesses. That's kind of where the schooling started, but the real school of life, I think, as everybody knows, is when you start to get to work. Mm-hmm. So I graduated from all those programs and went into working with CEOs in their business in an accounting context. It's big firm, Arthur Andersen at the time. And I got to meet CEOs every day and talk to them about what's going on in your business. What's keeping you up at night? And we did it through conversation on the statements, what was going on holistically. And man, I loved it. I loved it right from day one. I loved, touring the manufacturing floor. I loved talking to the service people in service industries. And I got exposed to hundreds of businesses. And again, the luxury and the privilege to sit at the C-suite and engage with those people and learn what their challenges were, and ultimately try and help them solve those strategically through the finances and bring them greater success in their enterprises. So,
that's one of the things that I've noticed about you, which I just love, is, in the times we'll be talking, your passion for, for this is equals mine, I'm sure, in marketing, sometimes maybe more for you on your side, but I've never met somebody that in the numbers side, and as someone that's like but you're completely working intimately as a CFO in these businesses, you rarely hear that as a passion. And so, what do you think that passion comes from?
The numbers are only the start. I think the real passion is problem solving. Like, getting to the root of what's really going on, like, working with, now I didn't even fast forward to today, but I've always had the privilege of working with CEOs on solving problems. And the numbers often are just the warning sign of problems that have been happening, right?
Mhm.
So many of the numbers we look at are in the rear view mirror. And I can say, yeah, I see these problems, this, and this. Let me guess. Are these the 5 things confronting your business? And the CEO founder, typically is like, yeah, how did you know? And then the real fun for me starts, because now we're solving the problem and we're getting ahead of it and we're putting in solutions and betterments to not repeat that pattern, repeat that challenge. And that's what I get super jazzed about. The challenge of figuring those out, strategizing, collaborating with my the CEOs I work with, and then ultimately seeing the results. Nothing greater than that.
It's like the numbers fly off the pages and it tells a story, right? Is that kind of what you're,
Totally, totally, totally. Oh, it's instantly self-evident, and then a conversation corroborates it. So what, tell me what's going on in the business. And I may have done my review of the statements or not. And then what's beautiful is seeing the alignment.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
So,
puzzle, right? It's a beautiful puzzle. I love that stuff.
and I mean, the bigger the business, the more they value the service. But a lot of businesses they're looking at, well, I have an account, but I don't have a CFO. What's the difference?
Yeah, so your day-to-day accounting team does the bookkeeping, does the entries. They'll even establish the financial statements for you. Maybe they'll handle some of your banking affairs, or um, if you have a line of credit or some of those kinds of activities, maybe even get into negotiating contracts. But that's where an accountant typically level stops. Your general manager accountant. A CFO is really a strategic business partner, where it's so much more into all facets of what makes the business go round.
Hmm.
The numbers and cash flow are fuel, but in almost every enterprise, people are one of the biggest assets. So it's humanistic management. All HR issues are constants that I see in my consulting practice and working with CEOs. It's constant. Cross industries, there's always people issues. There's technology issues. For years I've worked in auditing different technology companies. Now I get to see that in real life on the client side. So
Right.
it stops. The numbers are the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and then all these other things, that the marketing of the business, working with marketing types to say, where are we getting our greatest return? The
Mm-hmm.
list really is almost endless, but the
It
numbers are
touches
just
everything. I mean, that's the business. You're in the business of making money, and it's surprising how many people don't value. This is one of the most important areas to be, I think, getting advice from. Where are you spending it, marketing, and how you're spending it overall. I think you kind of are the first bite of the apple of strat, like in terms of value. I think for the business,
mm,
even in marketing, because you need to know what budget you can allocate. Because oftentimes in marketing, you get people that will over allocate, or they allocate funds and they have financial pressures elsewhere, and then it impedes the ability for marketing to continue. It's a little
mm,
zigzaggy and stuff. There's like, maybe you can share a little bit about, like the everyday business is dealing with one thing, which is cash flow, and you're trying to like do a
mm.
lot with so little. How do you
Mhm.
what do you think is a piece of advice or approach when it comes to this one issue of cash flow? Because that's usually for someone that's listening, is trying to spend money in marketing, going, well, how much can I spend against
Mhm.
cash flow and still leave enough on the table in case of uncertainty? How
Yep.
do you figure
Yeah.
this out? Tell us about this.
Well, yeah, I think, in today, let me just offer that I think diving into cash flow is probably one of the most repeated conversations I'm having with every one of my CEO clientele right now, because things are tight. Things are different than they were when the money printing of COVID times was happening, right? So the economy in general has tremendous pressure on businesses of all industries, shapes, and sizes, where they're getting compression, and finding money is hard and finding new money is expensive. Interest rates have gone dramatically up. So debt charges have gone dramatically up. I've Anybody out there who has mortgages, the cost of carrying a variable rate mortgage got a lot more expensive. People are acutely aware of these compressions into their wallet, businesses alike. And so it requires discipline, frankly. It requires looking at your cash flow. I think one of the things that shocks me almost is that there are multi-million-dollar businesses out there that don't look at their financial statements. And by the way, I think this is so much more common than I ever imagined possible, that are multi-million-dollar businesses that on a very infrequent basis even look at their financial statements and their cash flow.
It's funny. Many people believe when you're starting up, they have this illusion that when you're doing like $5 million a year, that you must be running things like totally on forecast and on budget. And what my experience has been is that they're running it on their bank statement still.
Amen. And they don't even maybe have a forecast or a budget. They have intuition, they have massive seasoned experience on where things are going to go from a revenue side, but it's not formulated, it's not documented. Um, and so what happens in times of challenge is things get tight too late, and they haven't had the benefit of some anticipation or preparation. So herein comes, the boring old forecasting and budgeting, super valuable tool. And the harder the times, the more important that tool needs to be applied. You get away with a lot when things are flush, and you can make some mistakes, pay some stupid tax, and it's not so egregious. When it ultimately is the difference between making money or not making payroll or having significant challenges that disrupt the business, it's a problem.
Mm.
And so I regularly am in working with my clients to say, how often do you look at your statements? And they're like, once a year. Once a year is good, right? When I just before my tax returns filed, and that's, I know here and there that it's good, but I see what's in the bank. I know there's some receivables coming. And so I just work them towards a greater routine of even monthly, starting to look at some statements and have some more awareness with a forward-looking mindset.
So how do you win them over to this habit? Because my experience in business is unless there's a direct response to either making money or a painful point, habits to be drawn into it on an executive level can be really difficult because they point to other priorities. How do you make
Yeah.
that important to them where they feel the effectiveness going? This actually
Yeah.
makes sense. What's your thoughts there?
Well, I guess most of the time that I get called in, they're in significant pain.
Oh, so they're willing to
So
do what you're saying. They're going, we're going to bow to you, what you're saying.
I got a pretty captive audience.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, okay.
I'm getting the phone a friend, Rob. We
Yeah.
need your help. We're not going to make payroll. So the pain is acute. It's not always the case. And again, I think then I just try and present the options. I say, hey, listen, carrying on this way, here's what I see as a potential outcome for you. So if it's not a real pain yet, I help them understand the risk of what's coming that I can
Mhm.
see from my seasons of experience and the hundreds and thousands of businesses I've worked in, and said, I've seen this challenge. I hope this isn't going to be one of yours. Here's what I'm concerned about. Here's what I think we can do to mitigate it. Are you with me? And then, like most things, they just don't know where to start. They need a bit of coaching, they need some support on how does this look? Where do I do it? So I give them a playbook and
Mhm.
sit down with them. And I often, um, the more committed they are, the more desire I have to roll up my sleeves and spend even more time with them, because I know that the speed of learning and immersion is just tremendous. And then guess what happens? Awesome outcomes. Bank balance is booming, business is running leaner and tighter, profits are up, and they say, "What's going on?" Hey, man, that's all you. Great healthy habits that you've implemented on your financial hygiene, paying you
Ooh.
dividends.
So financial hygiene, explain that.
Financial hygiene is the way I would describe the day to day. Personal hygiene, we brush our teeth, we eat a good healthy diet, we get in our water, we do all those things. The same holds true for your business. You need to stay on top of your bookkeeping. You need to stay on top of the puts and takes that are going into your business. You can't just dive off and start investing without some awareness of where things are at, or you're going to find yourself offside. And so I think maintaining daily financial hygiene is a simple approach. Don't do it once a year. Don't wait with that box of receipts and try and catch up. Schedule some time, meet with your bookkeeper, review things as they're being entered into your accounts to make sure the numbers make sense. Let me give you another example because it's, you know, your bookkeeper receives a whole bunch of inputs from you and your business, things you're spending on, revenue, invoices that are going out to your clients. And ultimately, they all need to go in a proper place on your financial statements. Sometimes they don't go in the right place. Financial hygiene is the essence of you reviewing those each month to say, does that make sense? Like, this says I had 2 million of income this month. That's probably not right. You know what? It was a $500,000 job that was counted 4 times by accident. It's a lot easier to catch those month by month than it is to wait till month 11 and go back and say, where are we at? What's off?
Mm-hmm.
And this, even more so, this is true on the expense side. If an expense for something for staff or for a conference you attended or an investment in marketing you made is in the wrong location, it'll probably stand out. You'll think, well, what is that? What's that all about? So doing a little hygiene, a little cleanup as you go
Mm-hmm.
means your numbers are more meaningful.
So
Means, yeah.
yeah, so another, so that's really cool. I like how you frame that. Now, hygiene, another one, like I'm thinking about is health. So one of the things that I try to explain, and I'm curious if you have a formula or if you do something that helps them with this, is sort of like the soft costs of anything they do in marketing. They just perceive initially up front, oh, it's going to be a cost of the ads. I'm like, no, 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 no. You haven't included creative. You haven't included your
Mm,
contract, outfit. Like
hmm.
there's all these other things that I'm usually cleaning up after the fact. They're going, I didn't
Yeah.
realize. And I'm like, oh man, you guys, like you haven't really thought. And then I'm like, then when I actually show them, I just did this with a client of what the
Yeah.
true cost was when they
Yeah.
allocate, they just weren't allocating those ads and they were going, oh, our ads are performing this. And I go, did you include the cost of operations, the two
Yeah.
staff members on there that are working on it,
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
full-time wages divided by each day and the campaign? I actually, and it
Yeah.
was like upside down.
Yeah. Well, beautiful example because I think the total cost of something is often elusive
Mm,
and it's not people's typical friendly, easy spot to have a sensitivity to that total cost of that marketing investment. And so, what I tell people is, where you spend most of your money, analyze the big numbers. Don't lose a whole lot of sleep over the little ones for now. Let's start with the most familiar, big, important spend to your business. So, and of course, that ebbs and flows, right? Through the seasonality of a business.
what
For
typically is
some
like the top five?
people, almost
Mm-hmm.
in a heavy proportion of my clients presently that I work with right now, people. Human
Okay.
cost is the biggest. Technology, depending on the leverage of automation, can be another one. Marketing is another good one. The general and administrative is often a different group of people that I put in. So again, that's your accountant or your HR person or some of your administrative support staff and teams. Those are the top several that I
Mm-hmm.
bump into.
Beautiful.
Um,
And what do you, and when you're assessing it and you're asking them to look at these big things, what are you saying? Like what is sort of the common, thing that you're kind of either guiding through or things you've seen?
yeah, a big part of what I'm after is, are you getting bang for your buck?
Right.
So is that expense yielding you some value? Is it optimized and giving you what you're looking for? And so, here's one that often happens: shipping. So I have a few wholesaler clients who manufacture product and distribute it across the world, and shipping's a significant cost. And they're paying their shipping costs as they go. But what they also have to do is charge some shipping recovery. It's not a shipping included in the sale in their instance, but is their shipping actually recovering the full cost that they're bearing
Mm,
or not? And they mostly, the left hand and the right hand, often don't know. So they know that they're paying shipping X to get you the product to your home, but what I've seen,
Pulling it
and
from the warehouse, storing it, secondary storage, they haven't accounted for.
not missing those nuggets,
Mm,
missing those components. And so what it becomes is a bit of an income statement on
yeah.
shipping. Here's the
Oh,
revenue I
interesting.
get from, so I'll, and this framework can hold for a lot of things. It says, let's do an income statement. Here's the revenue I'm getting from my clients on the sale for that shipping. And now here's my expenses related to shipping. The cost I actually paid, some warehousing, some this, some this. Okay, these are the nuggets or the handling charge. And then I just say, are we making money or losing money? And the outcome of this, a price adjustment, right? That's probably the number one breakthrough. People realize, man, I'm losing money. I thought I was making money on shipping. I charged $19.95. I thought I was
Mhm,
paying $9.95. Turns out I'm still losing money. I need to
mhm.
adjust my fee. Well, yeah, if you're shipping most of your product over to Asia, um, and you're doing it in a expedited fashion, yeah, you probably can recover that convenience fee from your clients better. So
Interesting.
the theme of an income statement for a targeted spend is a nice framework that you could change. You could put it into marketing, put it
Mhm.
into ad spend, and you can say, well, let's try and get a handle on this component piece.
Often I'm helping them try to figure out how to actually figure out the ROI.
Mm,
Because I'm
yeah.
reverse engineering the call it like the journey, the expense
Mm-hmm.
journey is kind of maybe the way I
Mm,
would look at it. Like, go, okay, where does this order like where does usually it's where does this creative or start from? By the way, how many meetings do you guys have to be able to have that creative? Like just I just try to get it into and go. Well, then what's their man? How many man hours is it? And then
mm,
going, what's the average rate? Like that's kind of where I go to help them look at the resource allocation because I think a lot of the sort of like cash that gets burned is just in people's time. And
mm-hmm.
they don't
Mm-hmm.
recognize that, wow, if I
Yeah.
only knew that this role was using 50% of their time on marketing, I would have actually hired somebody at a lower rate to do this, right? Like it's things like that I
Yeah.
kind of find to uncover,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that'd be cool if they
And
had like
that's
a
that's
marketing income statement.
that.
Maybe that's something you and I come up with.
Yeah, well, and I you just also tipped on something else that I think is super important is the opportunity cost of spending that money differently or using that person's time differently.
So is that like a forecast? Like, well, if we did this, this would have been the result.
Well, the
How do you do
opportunity
that?
cost, like, no, so what I want to think about is what's intrigued me was when you spoke about somebody's time that they would have
Right.
had to spend X number of hours. So they really should consider the cost of that as a line item in their, investment. The answer is
Right.
absolutely. But now, so let's just say they could outsource that labor for $25 an hour, but the founder maybe or the CEO are doing it. Well, they're probably worth $1,000 an hour doing their most amazing superpower skills for the business, mostly in selling or leading or visioning. And so it really becomes a quick quantum of, am I spending my time doing the right stuff? And the numbers bring that to light, and people go, whoa, well, that's not my job. I'm not great at that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I can do it, but it's not my superpower. And there's somebody else who can do it better and give me great leverage in my business to afford me to do the other things that those people can't do. You know, the founders often have superpowers because they've created the business, they know the clients. That's not something you can outsource.
Oh, I know. And sometimes the founder can do every job possible, and the challenge can be letting go because they want it to be. Nobody can do it as good as them, and that's the only thing
Mm,
you can do to scale. I mean, it's. I'm
yeah.
guilty of it. So that's interesting because I think that the hidden cost is something that eludes a lot of businesses. And when we think about marketing, how do you
Mm,
actually like? What do you recommend to clients when in terms of like budgeting and what's the current climate right now with things tightening up? Where it feels like we're in a recessionary position is
yeah.
and you hear the logic of spend more on marketing. What's your logic right now? Where are you at with this?
Well, I can certainly reflect on what I'm seeing, which is um, a change in marketing investment. So, and a more critical eye. So people are really challenging some of the things they did. I'm seeing far less traditional television, radio, And those kinds of investments, no surprise to you, of course. What's it been consumed by? Social media investment and other channels. Um, but even that from 18 months ago has been significantly critiqued and curtailed. And that I've seen uniform across a dozen businesses that I see that are North America and France, that I work with on a very regular basis. So it's not insular to just North America. I'm seeing it in Europe as well. The same behavior away from some of those channels.
Now,
I
are you
think
suggesting
people
that they actually contract the budget or expand their budget, or is it always the case by case? Like, what's your take on this?
yeah, I believe in a tailored approach.
Yeah.
So I think the seasonality of a business massively defines the timing of its spend,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to find yourself and your message in front of your ideal client. So I think the seasonality of the business and the life cycle of the business, where they are in a growth stage, in a plateauing stage, or are they in a morphine technology that they're actually going to pivot and shift, that that latter phase is probably making less significant investments in marketing and more in innovation
Mm-hmm.
as they're trying to rebirth into something that's more useful to their core clients. So I believe it has to be tailored and it has to be sensitive to market conditions and business life cycle positioning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't have a formula where I say this is the right marketing plan for you. I'm maybe invite that question to you. How many of the plans do you do are the same across your client base?
Not. In fact, what I was, it's funny, we're talking about the same thing indirectly, which is, the pervasive cultural positioning is spend more when the market's down. And
Mm,
this is like marketing. It's like, it's like there's too many of these weird, almost like cultural norms in business that I think you got to kill, because
yeah,
every business is completely different. And when I hear that, there's another component. It's like not all marketing is the same. So if we're
agreed.
in a recessionary position, for me, it's like, how can we squeeze more juice out of what we currently have?
Yeah,
Anything you spend that's top line in advertising is money out the door. It's like empty seats on a plane for a airline. It's evaporated. So we need to maybe invest in programs. I think right now is a beautiful time to invest in internal marketing programs that don't cost you money. An example would
yeah,
be, let's do an internal podcast with the marketing team. We can
yeah,
produce it ourselves. It's in house, telling the story, and instead of doing advertising. And then that's just something that is a program. It's an
yeah,
asset. It's like really shifting
yep,
from these I call them unsustainable great things for awareness, but shifting from awareness maybe in a recession time is to how do we get more value or keep the customers we have or get
mm,
referrals in a different way. And I think hand-to-hand combat is
mm,
still, meaning like in business and sales, is looking at how can you create personal relationships. And so
mm.
I'm curious, like,
Love that.
if you're, what you're,
Yeah,
how much you're kind of diving in, because for me, the economics of what I'm just suggesting, even in this shift, is
yeah,
significant in spend, because you're not spending more. You've actually
yeah,
contracted, but you've reallocated, and you're creating
yeah,
almost like a new thinking internally, more resourceful
yeah.
thinking.
Well, it's a beautiful mindset, and I love I'm always seeking to revisit the marketing spend. Why? What are we doing? Whenever I run into somebody who says, "Because we've always done it," we got a problem, Houston.
Hmm.
It's the we because that's when you find the spend gets stale. It's not innovative. It's not dynamic. It's just too routine. And so, what I try and encourage is, what is its effectiveness? If a dollar of marketing's going in and putting $10 on the top line, or $6 to the bottom line, pour it infinitely. Go. Spend more, spend more, spend more. But if a dollar going in is yielding -3 coming out, or it's just cost and it's not actually yielding, stop.
Or if it's too close to the line.
Stop the
I think,
madness.
I mean, there's many CEOs that are just there. It's fear. They're like, if I
Yeah.
stop marketing, what do I do? And they're like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, there's a million things you can do,
Yeah.
and
There's the
maybe
creative.
to me, it's like now's the time to not, if you have, you're looking at being more resourceful. Now's maybe the time to reinvent how you look at marketing or what you spend on marketing. And
Hmm.
maybe the idea that I always like this concept is everyone's in marketing. It's like
Yeah.
in this day and
Yeah.
age, within, you're seeing the mechanics at a back of a
Mm.
automotive dealership, it being brought to the forefront as part of the marketing, just showing a clip of them doing a customization or something. Like, it's really
Yeah.
just thinking about what can we do with what we have in the current environment of marketing, in a way that actually
Yeah.
doesn't
I love
create,
that.
you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
love
it's
that. I love that. And look, I think marketing, another way to think about it is just talking to your clients,
yeah.
talking to your ideal customers. And we used to always have an agency do it and create ads and media and these other traditional channels. And if what matters is to speak to your client and give value to them, there are so many new approaches. You've just described a couple that I love. Social media has changed the game. The internet, the ability to do all these things, some of the gifts of COVID is everybody's really good at a Zoom meeting. Everybody's really good at record it,
Hmm.
share it, reach your people, reach your tribe, reach your audience, because those raving fans, that's the best marketing you can do. And it's so much more personal. I know I don't need to speak the power of social media marketing to you because it's something that I see continue to yield incredible returns from the team themselves. Just like you said, the guys in
Yeah.
the shop
The
just
difference, though,
showing what they
we're
did.
describing as something different, though. It's called social selling. See,
Mm,
social marketing, I think a lot of people go, well, I'm doing social media marketing. We're posting every day.
yeah.
Right, think of it as, in the time of challenge, you want to get more intimate with your clients and create intimacy at
Yeah.
scale. So if you can have your salespeople
Love that.
creating content, sharing on your social media, or they are actually even better social selling, they're actually creating relationships, human to human relationships on platforms like LinkedIn. That to me is better marketing dollars in this climate right now, because there's so much noise, and the more people are a little
Hmm.
bit frantic and concerned, they're just publishing more. It's just creating, it's just, to me, it's becoming impotent.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And well, and too much dilution, you become glossed over, right? Certainly I behave that way as a consumer. When I'm totally inundated, it's lost its connection with me. So um
Or you're spending a lot
def
of money on creative to really get people's attention.
yeah.
And brands, like I work with a couple brands that are really exciting sports brands. They got it in the
Mm,
bag. I mean, all you got to do
yeah.
is put some beautiful stuff together. People love it because they're consuming it. But now it's about, if you're thinking about your business and sales, it's the relationships, understanding their problems, and building connections. And I think that,
Mm,
you know, like I think that the idea of, like, I think people need to do a marketing spend, almost like audit every
yeah.
year, and look at the budget in a way with total scrutiny and bravery.
Yeah.
Scrutiny and
Well,
bravery.
yeah, and I think what I encourage people to do is what I call zero-based budgeting, is start from zero and then stack what you want to spend on. What I think is often a behavior of many is last year we spent $49,500 on this stuff. Yeah, we're going to do that again this year, plus or minus a little. And I said, don't come in with that predefined bias unless you really know it's going to work. A really healthy exercise in budgeting is say, what do I need right now? What does our business need today? And how can I reach my clients today? And how can I give them awareness of my services, my offerings, so that I can bring that value to them? That just changes the whole exercise when you start with a blank slate versus what I find is a shortcutted, here's what it was before and it's plus or minus, we're going to be good. I'm thinking, don't skip the energy on it. It will pay you dividends to pour a little bit of horsepower on it. And that's not something you often do every month, every quarter. It's typically a deep dive once a year and then a tuning as you go. Um, just don't skip out on that annual, visit to the dentist.
It's funny. This is a quote I remember. Someone said, I don't know if if this is actually depicting, but it's called the difference. What's the difference between a rut and the grave? Time. It's because they're spending. If you spend
Oh,
time on these ruts, these marketing ruts, you know what I mean. You're going
mm,
to pay the price. And
mm,
I love your analogy. I love that you're talking about every year reinventing the base of what is. And I thought you were going to say, but this is kind of maybe my add-on to it would be, what would you
Mm,
be happy to pay money on? Like if
yes.
and if you don't love it, don't spend money on it. Like
Right.
there's so many people I talk to going, oh, I'm spending money on social media. I'm like, and they're just like, the energy is like this. I'm
Yeah.
like, then don't. And they're like,
Yeah.
but I thought I had to. There's this obligation of Me Too
Mm,
marketing that I think we need to
mm,
kill. It's
yep.
like
I agree.
I think at the leadership level, they should be going. So I got this one client. He
Mm,
didn't spend, like, he's one of my first branding clients that I launched called Basecamp Motorsports. And I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. I won't share any numbers, but what he's done is he's out, instead of spending more money on just marketing ads, and he does do a little bit of that. He's
mm,
reallocating, he's spending money on an athlete and created a TV show like on YouTube and giving this guy to travel all around in the backcountry
huh.
for the year to just ride
Wow.
his product. And he even he goes, and even make sure base camp's really, really, Scott, don't over market. You should know me. I'm a marketer. I'm like, okay, we're
Yeah.
going to make sure we're going to get
Yeah.
our ROI on it. He's
Wasn't so offensive.
in fact, he was more brave than me, and I'm usually coach people to be brave. He's going, no, it can be really modest. I just want it to be really successful. It'll have a trickle effect. There's someone who is brave and he's
Mm,
loving spending money on something that he's actually proud
yeah.
of. That to me is great marketing.
Yeah. I love that. And frankly, I think every dollar a business spends, they should be proud of spending.
Yeah,
If it's not congruent with you as an owner and a founder, stop it. There are lots of ways for you to invest your hard-earned dollars in the business's monies. It has to align to one's heart and morals and, energy. It
I would imagine
to
a lot of
me.
your work is mindset work, because to get them across that, it's the getting through the fear, right? The
Yeah.
fear is, well, I don't like this. Is why I try to tell clients, like, just like what you're saying. Let's imagine it's at zero.
Mm,
What could we do?
mm,
Imagine that, because when, if you've ever
mm.
noticed that whenever we're trying to solve a problem in our life, when once we remove and create space, something better
Yeah.
sometimes fills it in. That's what I
Yep.
think you're talking about, almost like energetically, and from a financial
Right.
statement.
And it is the mindset. It's the mindset of creative and the art of the possible. And I often pre-frame the question as we go into a budgeting exercise. I said, dream big. Dream for the biggest, best thing we've ever had. And then, it's my job as the accountant to try and work with you to CFO through what's going to be the best bang for buck. So I often get people dreaming in the largest sense. And what comes of it, even when it's parsed down to a more realistic budget,
Hmm.
is quantumsly more innovative, more creative, more cost effective. And guess what? The team loves it because we're doing something new and something hard. And so now they're pouring their horsepower into it. And the results almost always are better than the boring old, here we do this and we do this and we do this. And
So do you do
I think,
forecast on that? Like, do you like? I sometimes find that in order to get a client to move along on its spend, I have to forecast. Well, I think I mean, it's a hypothesis, but what the
yeah,
sales would be and stuff. And do you give them a roadmap on? Because that makes it believable when they start seeing them
ab-
go, oh, I believe this could work. Up until
ab-
that, they
ab-
don't believe you. I don't think.
absolutely. And what I try and establish in advance is, hey, we're going to make these investments, and how are we going to measure it? So I try to establish, so revenue is going to be a measure, profitability is going to be a measure, and I try and say traffic, and so we work through whatever the metrics are as best you can. Not everything's quantifiable, you know. So much of building a brand, it can be more holistic than just some defined metrics, which is a tricky chasm to bridge. But I build out as much of that as we can, and then I say, let's start measuring that day one of the investment.
Hmm.
And even more importantly, what was the baseline of those before we started this new approach? And let's see if we can move the needle. And
Let's
then we take on a spirit of continuous improvement and seeking to refine it and really tune it in.
let me share with you how I kind of communicate with my clients in terms of like ROIing on the brand.
Yeah, what do you do?
And so the way I communicate is there's two ways a business is value is created. One is business performance, which is your EBITDA, your cost of sales, your top line sales, your retained earnings, all that stuff. And then there's brand value. And brand value is what is it should lower the cost of sensitivity for your clients, or create
Price
a lower
sensitivity.
cost of marketing to bring business to you. That is how you evaluate, I think, brand value, because you have two
Yeah.
companies that have the same business performance, but one has a different brand value. It has also intrinsic future value. So it's like a
Yeah.
little bit like you can increase your EBITDA by
Massive.
doing a better brand value. And I said, well, but what I say is going, what are some of the marketing activities that we can shift? So there's three layers. There's the brand,
Yeah.
programs, and campaigns. All that their spend and investment are not the same. Brand is an asset spend.
Mm.
Programs is an asset and expense, and the campaigns are pure expense.
Expense.
Yeah. And
Yep. Yep.
programs, for example, so you're
Yep.
splitting some of your dollars. Like, let's diversify the risk of your dollars and putting some stuff in programs that you can keep building on itself. Like, for example, my podcast is a program.
Yeah.
So my Joe Pine episode I did with Experience Economy 3 weeks ago trended for some reason, and I did that one 4 years
Mm.
ago. Like, so that's an ROI I'm receiving, that something I've
Yeah.
done before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I
Beautiful.
explain it. But campaigns
Yeah.
are pure cost. So
Yep.
that's how I'm expressing.
I
We do
love
that.
that distinction. I love that distinction because some of them are an asset with future value, and others we just expense through the P&L right now, and that's a part of it, because that's a beautiful way to, you know, divide the spend and
Hmm.
be intentional on the nature and the balancing of your spend. That's something that often needs a little bit of step back and balance the investment, because we're human nature, right? I think often people, we jump to the shiny new thing and we go all in on that. And
It's
then we
like
go all in
soup.
on this.
It's like marketing spend soup.
Yeah.
That's what I find. You know what I mean? So it's like let's make a souffle. You know,
Yeah. 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 Lovely. So true.
right?
Make it delicious.
Make it delicious. Make it, if it doesn't rise, it wasn't a
Yeah.
souffle. It was just a pancake.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We were missing an ingredient there
yeah,
somehow, or some temperature was off.
I think that there has to be a hint of magic in what you do, because the way that you describe your excitement for it and how you
Mm,
get excited about the results you bring. What is that sort of like? Where do you see the moment within your client that they kind of,
mm,
there's a light bulb that happens? There's something that you just go,
mm,
there's a, they see, for me in branding, it's when they feel like they've been heard, like they go, oh my god, you totally
mm,
understand me, and you gave me the you unlocked my ability to communicate who I am. That right there, it's
mm.
always the same. It's a light bulb.
Yeah. I
What's
can
yours?
appreciate yeah, I can appreciate. I think in my work, it tends to be a little later in the conversation.
Hmm.
So it's, it always begins with, when I'm working with my clients, we often celebrate some wins, but we move pretty quickly into where the challenge is. And so that's where everybody in the mastermind in our group, we're super present, listening, learning, and they're feeling heard. But it's a couple steps later when the solutions and the hope and the ideas to now solve those very real business challenges come to life. That's when I see the spark. That's when I see people animate, because they were stuck. They had a no hope future for this hurdle.
Oh
They're like,
man! And when it comes with
I
money, and
can't.
that's the hurdle, that one is a heavy one.
It's super heavy. It's super fearful. It's a scarcity. We're not going to make it. I can't. How am I going to get over this or this? So that becomes it's more than a hurdle. It's a roadblock. And when they start to lighten and feel, I have 4 or 5 ways to push through that roadblock, to get over that roadblock, to go around that roadblock, to remove that roadblock, and they're all different, and I believe in all of them. Now the room is starting to feel the jazz. The CEO was like, I got to go to work. I got things to do. So now the energy's pumped
Mm.
back up. There's belief, there's hope, there's intention, and we formulate, very tangible action plans, and it's go. Um, that to me is the best payoff. I think maybe for the clients, it's 1 month later or 3 months later when the outcome is on the bottom line, and the losing business, that lost 6 figures is now making $250,000. And they're
Mm.
like, we turned it around. It worked. I have belief that once we were on it and I see the fire, then I know, uh, you know, it's really going to rock and roll around now.
Absolutely stunning. Now, I want to shift gears. And it's the first
Yeah.
step towards the on ramp talking about sustainable growth marketing is, you know, not all money in my mind is the same when I'm
Mm,
in terms of money received.
mm,
And, the example I'll give is, with a lot of clients that are receiving their programs or things that they can do. And I've been really obsessed over, um, when I think about sustainable growth marketing, it's not just top line sales. It's also, it's your cash flow. It's like sustainably, like having every marketing dollar outperform, meaning more than it's just like did it ROI, is can that money
yeah.
be keep recouping itself. So the example I give is
Mm,
you have a client that's selling a single off course,
mm-hmm.
well,
One
versus
off. Yeah.
doing a subscription. The money is not the same
Mm,
because over time, you like adding a subscription, it's like you
yeah.
have more repeatable cash flow. It might bring down your upfront costs, but you have more predictable cash flow. And
Yep.
and you can shift it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about these type of models, because this is what I'm really for the right clients, not all clients, but I mean you're even seeing like automotive industry doing subscriptions. Like it's subscriptions is really
There's,
interesting.
yeah, I in general, and you see this all the way through the entire run of the market, predictable revenue is worth more than one-off non-predictable revenue, right? That
So
if
how do
I
you evaluate, like how much difference is it in terms of if you were selling the business even? How would you evaluate
well,
that to show the power of this?
it's quantum's different.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
private equity firms will give you a far more robust multiple on your net income, on your EBITDA, whatever it is. Like it could often be from 2 or 3 times earnings to 7, 8, or 9 times earnings. If you're a subscription, SaaS-based, renewal, recurring, stable, super sticky revenue, clients love you, they're not leaving. That business is getting a 9, 10, 12 multiple, even in today's reality versus a 3 or a 4.
And
That's
I'm
huge. That's
curious
a
what your
400% improvement on your exit as an owner.
what is the craziest subscription you've ever heard of? That you went, oh my gosh, you're
Hmm.
subscribing that? Because I'm
That's a well.
I,
I'd actually. I don't know if I'd call it crazy, but I would say I'm being enveloped by subscriptions. I
mhm.
can subscribe to my groceries. I can subscribe to batteries. I can subscribe to almost any purchase on Amazon and get it every month. Costco is subscribing. So it used to be a membership for a certain period of time. Well, we've seen it in music. Now I'm seeing it in these consumable goods, and it's not just 1 or 2 market players doing it. It's many and all, because they get it. They want that repeat business, and they're selling convenience.
And usually it can. There's another benefit from the consumer standpoint. Usually it can mean that you have pay for less. You don't pay
Yeah.
as much up front. It diversifies
Yep.
your own cost, so it gives you more
Yep.
breathing room. So it can kind of work in within your own cash flow. So it has a
Yep.
mutual benefit. But from a business
Yeah.
standpoint, I'm seeing unbelievable. I'm trying to really like have people reimagine. Let's
Yeah.
imagine.
How can it?
No one's ever done it. Most usually clients are going to go, no one's ever done this, and I'm like, isn't that the reason you should do this? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like why not
Keep
try? Why
trying.
not you?
Yeah.
It will
Yeah. Keep trying.
probably be hard to do at first, and that's my experience is shifting
Yeah.
the business from one to the other. It's a
What I
chasm.
love well, what I love about this groundswell is that the market and consumers are buying subscriptions.
Yeah,
They're buying subscriptions to the tanning salon. They're buying it for music. They're buying it for their Google storage. I mean, how many subscriptions do you have in your life already?
probably 100. And I bet you right now there could be a
Right?
service that could do subscriptions for office chairs inside of offices that has a
Yeah.
flexing. So that way, me, if I my
Element.
as my staff moves, I
Yeah.
can move my subscription. But now I basically I don't own the chairs. I'm on a subscription of chairs. Like
Yeah.
to me, that's like
Yeah.
you can make way more money than selling the
Yeah.
chairs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think long game, and I believe in business, you should have a long view on the viability of the business, and you got to be investing in the long game. It pays. And that's private equity firms are brilliant and successful and really good at making money because they see the value of that recurring revenue stream. So, I continue. I think before you know it, you're going to be, for those who have hair, to get a haircut, you can be on a subscription model.
That'll be
You
everything,
know, Uh,
and
uh,
so yeah, that repeatable, predictable revenue, but also the as a program. So when I think about the cost of marketing, so it's
mm,
buy or go away. So there's another intrinsic cost.
yeah,
We have to capture money
acquisition.
to do acquisition where I've done $1 and I'm now don't and now when you have a subscription, your ability to then upsell the subscription and you already have a captive audience, you now have completely collapsed your cost of marketing to that person. And if you go to the next level and read my book, which is if you
Yeah, yeah,
transform them, you transform their experience of your subscription office share business, they'll tell another CEO and they're bringing business to you. We're seeing that,
yes.
you and I are seeing that in other realms, right? Where
Oh,
people are compelled. That's the best
yeah,
marketing.
totally compelled. Word of mouth marketing is bar none the best. Like those kinds of raving fan endorsements just fuel the business. And again, I think you're really hiving off another piece is just the LTV, the long-term value of a client. And it if we can avoid those acquisition costs that were traditionally and have gotten more and more expensive, um, subscriptions really help you realize optimal LTV with different clients that you're bringing value to.
So as I had Don Peppers on, and we did a whole episode on total lifetime value of clients. And I'm curious if you
Mm,
step into that with your clients on going, let's look at our total life cycle of our client. Do we need to
mhm,
look at reinvigorating them? Because a lot of people just accept that
yeah,
clients have a total lifetime value of X. And I'm like, is that true? Is that a story?
yeah.
Are we missing the opportunity
S-
for your client? Like you're missing money on the table. Like maybe you don't do that service
Yeah,
now, but you already have the
yeah,
client.
yeah. So I absolutely dig into this in different ways in different businesses. I'll give you a couple different examples. So one of the first things I do is I ask, what is the LTV of your client?
Hmm.
And oftentimes I get the, what? What are you talking about? S- How much are they going to spend with you over, until they're gone? And they'll say, oh, I don't know. And I'll say, well, how long do you think one of your clients is going to stay with you? Let's think about it that way. So, well, I'm normally 2 years and then they leave my service. And I'm speaking of a few of the service businesses I
Hmm.
have: personal chef business, commercial doors servicing business. So they'll experience a client for 2 years. So the first thing I'll challenge them is, why only 2 years? Why not longer? Why are they leaving? What changed? They loved you. And if you had them for 2 years, how many times did you invoice them in that 2 years? 10, 12, 14 times? Wow, you had a lot of interactions with them. You provided a lot of service to them. Why are they leaving? So the first thing I try and do is change the end and
Hmm.
get really curious on, why is it only two? Let's make it five.
Because if you added just even 2 months to that, that is like the top line profitability. You don't have to do all that revenue
That's it.
was
Yeah.
no cost of sales. Like that actually hits the bottom line. Such a heavy hammer. That's
Ma-
amazing. Yeah.
Massive, massive yield. And again, you're just watering down that acquisition cost and diluting it over their full lifetime value. It affords you the ability to do a bit more upfront client acquisition investing when you have a longer time to have a winning financial relationship with that client. The next thing I work on with them on is, are we giving them everything they need? So we have this client in our house, and do they have every one of the programs that we can serve them in? Are we serving them as completely as we've tried? And where that question often starts is, what else are they looking for? We sell them door service, we sell them in-home chef service, we sell them um, chiropractic service. What other things do they need that they aren't getting served right now? So when I can get a greater share of that same client's revenue from something they would buy, they just didn't know we had it, um, herein brings an even greater return on that LTV. So that's the kind of
We do the same
audit.
thing.
Yeah, you
The
talked about
challenge
an
I have
audit.
though is that what happens times is the client will say, tell me if this is true. They
Mm.
would say to me, go, but Scott, we're not in that business. And to
Well,
me, that's the rut to the grave comment.
yeah. Well, I would say, let's explore why we're not. If it's not because we don't know how, we don't think we can make money. It, if the excuse is we've never done it, That's not an
Yeah,
excuse.
it's
Or
it's
if
usually we've never done it, or that their identity. They're married to an identity that they have, and I'm like, maybe we
yeah.
need to reimagine what it is.
Yeah, and so here's to get through some of that, I invite people, pilot, pilot small.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean you're gonna go for the biggest investment ever and really try and crush it, and if it fails, it's gonna be super painful to the business and your cash flow. No, try small. Take a taste. It's the whole adage, you have to take a few bites of that before you know if you don't like it or not. I'm not making you eat a whole plateful, but take a few bites. Give it a shot.
I have a framework for how we actually decide which of these experiments to run. And then we run
Mm,
what's called, I call it an active strategy, which is exactly that. It's a test budget against the hypothesis.
yeah.
And our
Yep.
goal isn't necessarily to be successful as a business
So
unit.
good.
It's just to verify the cost of sales, any of our assumptions, and we need to create the best test, not necessarily create the best start. Big difference.
Yeah.
Best test versus
And
best start. Yeah.
and it's learning, man. It's
Yeah.
learning, and I wanna learn. I wanna learn with small mistakes versus learning on a big mistake. So, often I'll get pretty apprehensive when I see somebody say, "Oh, we're going all in on this." And I'll say, "Not our core business, new differentiation. I love the innovation. Let's just test a bit smaller before we're ready to go all in." Doesn't mean we can't be quick, but let's get some early feedback.
And I always go, what's the cost of distraction? Is this going to be
Yeah.
like we get there's a cost there.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you were at my
Great
mastermind,
distinction.
and
Yeah, yeah,
do you
beautiful.
remember? I don't know if I did this or not, and I was going to describe it, and I'm curious what your thoughts were. Did we do the ICE framework together?
I don't recall.
Okay, so what it
So
is
refresh me on ice.
yeah, no
What's
problem.
ice?
So this was it's not the origins wasn't for me. It was from a
Okay.
growth scientist named oh shoot, what's forgot his name right now, Sean Ellis. He wrote the book called Hacking Growth, and
Mm,
it's a beautiful. It's basically from his side. It stands for impact, confidence, and ease. Very logic driven. So
mm,
this was how he used growth hackers used to determine what other experiments in marketing to do. And impact,
mm,
confidence, and ease. The ICE stands for those.
mhm,
And what you do is you put on a spreadsheet from 1 to 10. What's the impact on our goal, our bottom line,
mm,
our whatever? Give it a rating. It's going to totally
mm,
make a difference in our cash flow. If that's our right now, if we were to say right now, cash flow is king, what is that going to do? Is that going to be a 10 on our cash flow, or is it going to be a 1? Two,
yeah,
how confident are you that you can do this? Give it a rating.
mm.
Has someone done this before? Is this new territory? Is it like you said? Is this a new? Is this going to be a distraction? Like that's
Complicated,
complicated.
hard,
Is it
difficult,
whatever? Do we have to get new
straightforward.
equipment? Like that could be part of it. And
Mhm,
then ease. How simple is it? So
mm,
it's like complexity is the enemy of execution. You got to be really
yeah,
clear about that. So that has worked for me
agreed.
for years. But what I've done is I've added another dimension to it. And this is I
Mm.
didn't put this in my book. I wish I did because I did have it at the time. I just
It's
didn't.
for your second book.
It'll be for the in the workbook. And so that's the if you think of the logic side, that's what we just covered. But there's another element, and the element is still stands for ICE, and it's impact, congruency. Sorry, identity, congruency, energy. And identity is if we do this weird marketing thing that we're thinking is going to make cash flow, is that in line with our brand? Is that who we
Mm,
are? Is that who we want to become? We need to be really clear about because sometimes
mm,
someone will go, I've got this idea, and you're like, and it's not really it's not connected, and so we need to find a way to make sure it is
yeah,
a 10 or a 5 or better on identity. Two is
yep,
congruency. Congruency is congruent with our values. It could be congruent with the systems. Hey, we're a PC shop, and this is a Mac idea. This isn't going to work. Like that's going to be a cost. It needs to be a lower rating, right? So because a lot of times people when they want to do like for example like I'm encouraging a lot of people to go to a private virtual network off of social media. It's a new system. I have to tell them it's like this right now it's
yep,
not congruent for you because you're not used to using it. It will be over
right,
time, but you have to account for that. It's going to take time, and it's also not
yep,
congruent for your consumers. You got to be willing to pay the price, right? And then last
mhm,
is energy. Most important one I
yeah,
think
what's
of
that?
all of it. Do you have the energy for this? Are you
Uh,
excited about it? It's what we talked about before. Are
mm,
you excited about
yeah,
spending that money? It matters because when the company has energy for something, it's
mhm,
magic. Like their magic
yeah.
appears. And when you don't have energy for it, you're mailing it in. It has a different, whatever the program you're doing. So if it works all good on paper, but nobody's really energized by it, do you think it's going to work?
No chance.
So
Well, or lower likelihood.
you're
Not
right.
no
So
chance,
that
but
takes
way
the
lower
logic out of
likelihood.
it. So you have to add this
Yeah.
other side of the brain. And I realized to
Yeah.
really see it because I was
Yeah.
so logic driven for so long. I mean,
Yeah.
numbers only, like, does it ROI? Can we measure it? And I realized this unseen piece is a big part of what I teach is we have to be able to measure or at least acknowledge the other side because it affects it.
I love this framework. I love this exercise because, well, I'm a numbers guy, but it tries to help bring some of these things into a subjective yet still more objective measure. And we try and quantify it. And frankly, I just find it helps when people put these ideas into writing
Mm-hmm.
and they make them more real. They commit to some numbers, and you know, some personalities are no problem. They can just jam out a number really effortlessly. Other people are like, I'm not sure if it's a 4 or a 4.5 or a 5. I'm like, it's close. This is hand grenades. We're just getting close. But at the end of the exercise, when they can sum things up and compare alternatives with this same framework and same tooling, the decision becomes so clear.
Mm-hmm.
So clear. Like people often say, Rob, I have 4 good things and they're all the same. And I said, well, let's talk, let's see, let's do an exercise. And we kind of do this kind of framework on those 4 ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And the math often says 78, 24, 22 to 6. Not even close. We're going to do the 78.
Let's
Let's
fix the
go.
artery, not the vein.
Yeah. And like, where's that impact and but until it's kind of got a bit of a framework,
Yeah.
until there's a little bit of this coaching and guidance to get through the exercise, I'm guilty of doing this. I'm guilty of having too many things and it's all brewing around here and I can't get
It's a soup.
clear on which.
Yeah.
It's a soup.
Yeah. You can't
And
make a
then as
decision
soon
unless you separate it.
yeah, and once I kind of get a bit more granular on it, the exercise I just kind of go through it. I'm not looking for perfection. I just want to get something down here, and then boom, light bulbs go off, and then solutions and decisions and actions flow, and then
Well,
the energy's up.
you and I both have been in Business Mastery with Tony Robbins, and he talks about decision making
Mm,
matrix, right? Or maybe it's financial.
yep.
And he talks about we try to make these decisions and we stress over stuck on them. It's because you have
Yeah.
to get them on paper and evaluate them
Yes.
in these ways, or else what we're doing is we're stuck. And I remember
Yeah.
myself, I was stuck on something
Cycling.
and I was trying to cycle and solve it all in my head, and you have to get out of your
Yeah.
head to solve it. And it's
Ah.
and literally I was like, I had to take my own advice. My wife actually did. She's like, why don't
Yeah.
we do the very thing that Tony says and you say to your clients to this
Yeah.
problem? And I literally like
Yeah.
we figured it out in 1 hour and I was
Yeah.
toiling over it for fucking months. I'm
Yeah. And
it's
and and
amazing.
th- this is an example of decision hygiene for me.
Right.
Do a little bit of work and relieve yourself of the hours of torture of what you're thinking about and a little bit of these hygiene habits, these little tools that you can implement small scale on the regular. That's where I see some of the biggest value gain for the people I get to work with. Um,
What's your like what's your advice for somebody right now in given the economic times? Like what is like if someone's listening to they're going, look, it's things are getting in a if it's just tight. Like what is your
yeah,
advice to really someone who's really right now, maybe they're struggling or they're just worried, which I think a lot of
yeah.
people are just concerned, you know?
I don't mind worried, right? I think a worried and a concerned person is somebody who's paying attention and really takes great pride and focus on their business. I encourage them to get present with their numbers. Have a look. Get to know what's going on in your business. I hate surprises,
Mm.
and especially in my numbers in my business. So spend a little bit more time with your bookkeeper, see where things are at. Be super aware of your debt load and what your debt schedule is. Debt schedule is just kind of like if you have a variety of debts, which ones have more interest and are more expensive to you than others? Because you want to pay off those expensive ones first. Sounds super straightforward, but it's one of those things that we forget to optimize how we handle them.
Hmm.
And in today's heavy inflation and higher interest rates, I'm going to stop short of saying that they're high, but considerably higher than our near zero interest rates. This is a big cost burden that wasn't on many entrepreneurs' eyes for the last decade. They were spoiled. We were all spoiled with very, very low interest rates. And it's not a muscle that we're used to being in touch with our debt and the cost of our debt. Um, so I think that's a skill that has to be relearned for those who've started a business in the last 7, 8 years and didn't really ever have that challenge before.
Yeah, it's like I call it the roots. Like the roots in a tropical environment, they're not very deep, but resilience
Yeah.
for a tree that's that has like weather, it has to go through seasons and stuff. Their roots are much deeper. And when you think about
Mm,
sustainable growth marketing, which kind of want to maybe finish on a little bit, is like the help people really understand the importance of that. Is like sustainable growth marketing to me is it's really pushing yourself long term, paying attention
mm,
to the short-term cash flow, so you can't ever get your eye off that, but really having that long term, as far long term as you possibly can. What decisions would you do differently if you were actually planning 20 years out? I know everybody goes, well, you can't really do that, but I'm like, maybe not in terms of what you're doing, but if you think of a
mm,
subscription play, what would happen if we actually slowly shift our business, diversified our income,
mm,
brought down our costs, internalized costs into programs? You would think about things differently. When you stretch timelines, it's amazing how more interested people are on brand and programs, the shorter it's on campaigns. And if you're on that short term treadmill, like we are right
yeah,
now, and with advertising, if you haven't done that work in advance, you're not sustainable. In fact, you're
yeah,
you're a cost of advertising rate away from not making that profitable and maybe losing money. It's like, so being sustainable is thinking about these things. So I'm curious
yeah.
what your advice is around this, because I really,
Mm.
there's so much
The
like, it's almost another episode just talking about it, but it's maybe just touching on it.
I think one of the most important things to support sustainable marketing is businesses need to have stayed abreast of inflation.
Well, let's just call it sustainable business strategy, because I think marketing is just a
Yeah.
piece of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my final consideration of I would put this on a pedestal because I've seen it so much over the last 14 months. Inflation has continued to run rampant, and too many of the businesses that I get to work with have been behind in bringing their prices up. It's scary. Things are getting harder. If I put my prices up, I'm going to lose market share. I'm going to lose clients. I can't afford to. And yet for 2 years their margins have been eroded and they have to put their prices through. So we've worked with lots of people to push their prices through and thus be sustainable, and it's worked way better than they feared. Way better because the value of what they're doing is worthwhile. But I think too many CEOs nowadays have been fearful of the necessity of keeping their pricing competitive and sustaining a fair margin. That would be something that you're not going to be in the sustainable business game if you haven't continued to bring price increases.
It's so counterintuitive, though, to a CEO. You're saying, I'm going to increase prices in a more competitive landscape, but I might argue that that actually creates more differentiation. If it's bigger client spend, you could literally have one-to-one conversations going, you want us to be around,
Yeah.
right? Like
And
that
and
affects you if we disappear.
and I think it forces all good businesses to continue to be relevant and creating tremendous value for their clients. You can't just increase the price and be cutting services or value. You need to be enriching them.
Hmm.
You need to be finding creative, productive, new ways to bring more value to your clients alongside a price increase. And that needs to be tuned to the needs of your client. There's no better person to tell you because otherwise they're leaving. They're walking with their wallets and they're going somewhere else.
Hmm. Yeah,
But a business will not be sustainable with unprofitable clients. It's just how long will I survive? That's not a thriving business.
I think a business is unsustainable if it has um, well, I don't know what to call it. Like it's a unloyal or disloyal or ineffective brand, meaning your brand, not
Mhm.
maybe we'll say an unprofitable promise,
Unproductive.
because you're not actually
Mm.
delivering on what you're saying. And so if you raise your prices, the brand doesn't mean anything. It's like, but when the brand goes, hey, these guys are doing something and we trust them. See, it's really like that comes down to trust. And
Hmm.
that to me is the new game. And the new game, I believe, is in this brand. It's always been trust. So when I say that word, people go, yeah, of course, that's nothing new. But think of it this way. It's like in branding and marketing, the next book I'm writing is called Title Shift. It's like we're moving from this age of attention and we're moving into this age of trust. Now, I think that in
Mm.
times of when things are bad, you really want to bring your elbows in, and you're only working with people you trust in any situation, business and personal. Now, this age of attention, we're spending money and trying to get attention to get clients, and we're doing all these things. The real thing that matters is were you there for me when I needed you? Can I trust that your brand promise and you're living up to it? Are you you know am I getting a value for what I'm providing? Are you anticipating my needs? Are you providing
Yeah.
massive value? That's where I think if you shift your money into that the delivery of it, I call it
Yep.
invest in the roots before you want the fruits, because then people want to stay with you,
Beautiful.
and that keeps your
Beautiful.
acquisition costs down because now you're holding clients and
I
hopefully
love
getting word of
this.
mouth. Yeah.
I love this, Scott. I love this. I think it is such sage advice for every business owner to be making those kinds of intentional decisions. How am I deserving of my clients' trust? And I need to continue to support them in their needs. That's a profitable, long-term LTV, great thriving business with raving fan clients.
Mm.
And that to me as a business guy, that's what I love having as a great outcome. Happy CEOs serving amazing clients and everybody's happy. Win-win.
And your clients are not reluctantly sending you the money; they're happily sending you the money
With thanks,
with thanks.
with thanks,
Yeah.
with thanks and saying, what else? Right?
Right.
When your clients have such a trusting rapport and appreciation for what you're doing for them, they'll start telling you what else they need. And they'll start inviting you to be doing it for them.
Hmm.
They're frustrated with somebody else who's in a complementary line of business and they'll say, couldn't you do this for me? I trust you, Scott. Why I don't want to have to deal over here. That
So
is
now
a
you're
game
touching on the
changer in a
shift.
business.
The shift
Mm,
is people came to me for years. I have a product. Can you help me go to market and sell it? And I've always thought it was upside down. The upside down is I have clients, I have a community, I have a customer base. What can we sell to them? We built this trust. We
ah,
have this brand identity, this relationship with them. Instead of it being a brand for acquiring and bringing people attention, it's really we have holding people and we're adding value to this group because they have trust with us. And I think these trust bubbles and are going to be
ecosystems.
ecosystems are going to be the future.
Yeah, I think more and more they're becoming, and those communities have strength and power, and find that tribe. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm looking forward to your second book. When's it coming out, or is it still in the early drafting
Early
phase? Where are you
drafting
at?
phase. I'm still, trying to still promote my existing book, but I'm outlining these ideas and I'm starting to invite guests to kind of like we are right now. That are kind of like they
Yeah,
built the scaffolding and then I can bring the every time I bring on in my podcast, like there'll be something from that book
you
that's
get
going to go in
another
there.
nugget.
I get something every time. So that's kind of this is like my active research for it, if you will. So
I love it, man.
well, you and I have been talking. Like, I think we're gonna, maybe team up and do some, money and marketing Q&As, and I think that probably the best thing at this point, we could probably almost do another whole full episode, and maybe I think we should. But for now, we've been over an hour. How about you just share a little bit about where they can find you, and then in our notes, if and when Rob and I are kind of launching some things, we'll just tuck them in there, whatever that is, so that way it's always relevant to
Yeah.
whatever we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anybody in the community, follows you, they can certainly find me through you. My name's Robert Lee, and I'm a fractional CFO. I run the Joint Advisory Board. If you're a CEO looking for some support in your business, maybe we should start a conversation. I can be reached at my email, and we can put up my email and my number, and people can
Your
contact
LinkedIn.
me
I'll
from
have all
there.
the stuff there. You bet. All right,
Yeah,
guys.
perfect.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Everyone that's listening, thank you so much for being on the show. As always, go to groundswell.fm. Give me a recording if you want to leave me a message. Until next time, mahalo.